So good evening, everybody. Walter Alcorn here, your Hunter Mill District Supervisor. Want to just give folks another minute or so to sign on. So we'll get started in about 1 minute. Okay, let's go ahead and get started. Don't want to have everybody wait too long. Welcome everybody to this town hall meeting for the Hunters Woods area, Hunters Woods community. As I mentioned, I'm Walter Alcorn. I'm Hunter Mill District Supervisor. This is the first one of these that I have hosted in the, 10 months and 18 days that I've been Hunter Mill District Supervisor. It is something that in COVID times we are having to do virtually, but I do look forward to being able to do these in person when we can. And this is another opportunity, well, it's an opportunity for folks in the community to hear directly from a number of our public servants and to hear what's going on and also have the chance to ask questions and get more information. So why don't we go ahead and just get started? We are first very fortunate to have with us today. I see Captain Thea Pernat here. And Captain, thank you very much for being on this town hall today. And I'll just turn it over to you.
Well, thank you very much for inviting us. We really appreciate this opportunity to talk to our community members and share some information. I know there's a lot of concerns, so that's what we wanted to kind of talk about. Update you on the information that we do have, provide you some information what we're doing as far as to ensure the community is safe, and then also kind of share some initiatives because this is a partnership. We do need community support. For this community to be the kind of community that everybody wants to live, work. We want people to obviously shop and dine in Hunter Woods and do so and feel safe to do so. So we do have some graphs. I don't know if they're when we can start sharing them. I'm sorry, I'm not familiar with this particular app. So if we could share those.
There we go. Jose's got you covered. There's graphs are up.
All right, great. Thank you very much for that, Jose. All right, just wanted to start out. This is the Reston district's kind of boundaries that you're looking at right now. I know that you guys are the Hunters Woods primarily, so that's what we're going to focus on tonight, which is in that what we call patrol service area, number 530. You'll see that at the bottom right. So that's where the Hunters Woods Shopping Center. So what we do is we have 3 patrol shifts out there. Each patrol shift will have an area unit that is a designator of 530. There's actually a 531. It's split in half. So there's actually 2 patrol units for each shift that are assigned there. They do overlap. So there's a day work shift, an evening shift, and a midnight shift. They all overlap. So there's at any given time you can have 4 officers in there. We also have additional units through our neighborhood patrol unit, and I'll talk about them in a little bit. So this is the area we're kind of focused in on tonight because I know there's some concerns, and that's why you guys are all signed on. So let's talk about that tonight. So if we can go to the next slide. Okay, so this is, I know, been a big call from our community members. A big concern is the reports of gunshots, and obviously that is very concerning. It's illegal, obviously, for any condensed area that we have. There's nowhere that it would be legal for them to be firing off any sort of firearm in the confines of Reston the way that we have it. And as you see those blue dots, this is just for 2020 that we have on here. Sorry, my screen's so small. Yeah, we just broke it down for 2020. So these are just the calls that we receive. It doesn't mean that it's confirmed that someone's actually shooting a firearm. Someone is calling our dispatch center and they're explaining that they hear what sounds like they believe to be gunshots. So we will send units to obviously investigate that. As you can imagine, and if you live in the area and you've heard those sounds, it's kind of hard to figure out where they're exactly coming from. So we will talk a little bit about this, but we do encourage you to please call in anything suspicious, anything you see or hear. We do send units, we do investigate. We are trying to identify any subjects that are involved in this kind of criminal conduct, because as you can imagine, extremely dangerous, whether they're shooting at someone else or not, or just firing rounds up in the air. Highly dangerous. We will address it. We just need to identify where it's coming from. So you see, we've been tracking this because we are trying to, through predictive analysis, figure out what's going on, where it's going on, and what we can do about it. So that's what it looks like right now in the Reston District Station for the year of 2020. If we can go to the next slide. This is what the entire county looks like. So this is not something that's unique to our district. It is something that is happening all over the county. So as an agency, this is something that we are very concerned about, obviously addressing. So I want to show you the next slide though. So this is what's been going on for the last 3 years, because that's the next question. Is there actually an increase in 2020 as compared to last year, the last previous years? And it's kind of an interesting, I can't give you a definitive yes or no. You'll see at the top there, that's 3 years combined. The number 5 is actually the Reston District Station. We currently have 8 district stations. That's what those numbers represent. So number 5 is Reston. That's the light blue. That's what we're focused on right now. That's a 3-year cumulative total. Again, that's just calls. That does not mean that that is confirmed cases where someone actually fired off some sort of gun. But at the bottom, you will see how it's broken down over a 3-year period there. So yes, it appears in the Reston District Station especially that we have had an increase in these type of calls. So that's very concerning to us. But there's 2 possibilities here. It could be an actual increase in these calls, or it could be we're just doing a better job of capturing this data and collecting this data. There's more people calling it in and reporting it. So we don't know for sure. I mean, I would say on face value, it's probably likely there's an increase in this activity, which is what we're primarily concerned about and what we're going to focus on, some initiatives to hopefully address this and suppress this and make this a much safer community for you all. If we can go to the next slide. Oh, actually, I'm sorry. We'll save this one. If we can save that one, we can be done for slides for right now. All right, thank you. Like I said, I just want to kind of give you guys some infographics so you had a little bit of an understanding when we're talking about what we're doing and why we're doing it, because we do know that that is a primary concern. In addition to that concern, obviously, we do have an unsolved homicide in that particular area. And I know there's some questions about that. That is a very active investigation. Our homicide squad is very much involved in committed to solving that crime. I did bring Second Lieutenant Erin Weeks. She's currently the supervisor for the homicide squad. So she can kind of talk to you about what information we do have as far as in that investigation currently that we're able to release. Obviously, we don't want to compromise the integrity of the investigation, but we're sharing this information because we do need the public's assistance in helping us not only solve this particular heinous crime, but these other calls for service that we're talking about where there's a risk of individuals being harmed. So Lieutenant Weeks, are you ready to go?
Yes, ma'am, I am. Thank you. Good evening, everybody. As the captain said, I appreciate you guys being on this call. On September 17th, 2020, around 6:50 in the morning, Reston Patrol responded to the area of Colt Neck Road and Glade Drive. When they arrived on scene, they found a victim there who was suffering from gunshot wounds and was later pronounced deceased on scene. Detectives from our Major Crimes Bureau, specifically the homicide squad, as well as crime scene detectives, responded out to take over the investigation. At the conclusion of them processing that scene, the victim was transported to the office of the chief medical examiner for an autopsy. That autopsy was conducted, who also found this to be a homicide investigation. Obviously, this, as the captain said, this is still an active investigation. I can tell you that the squad itself, as well as the lead detective, has put in an incredible amount of hours into this case and will continue to do so. He's following up on all leads, personal relationships with the victim, business relationships with the victim. And obviously, we have many different working theories in this case so far, but we are asking for the community's assistance. If anybody knew the victim, that's important for us. Anybody that may have heard through the grapevine what happened, any information that the community can provide, obviously we want, and we're going to follow up on. Obviously, I am confident that we're going to solve this case. It's just going to take a little bit of time. I do not feel like this was a random act of violence. So I don't want the community to necessarily be afraid. I don't believe it was a random act of violence. And I am confident in our detectives, and we are going to solve this case. It just may take a little bit of time. But like I said, we're asking for the community's help in this case. And that's about all I have for that case. Unfortunately, like I said, it's an active investigation, and we are actively following up on these leads constantly. They're coming in, and the detective's going out on them immediately.
Lieutenant Weeks, could you provide the phone number that you would like if anyone has any information for this particular case?
Sure. You can either call the non-emergency number, which all that information can be passed up to us, which is 703-691-2131. Or you can call the major crimes main line, which is 703-246-7800. And I can look up the flyer really quick and grab the tips line as well. I'll get that for you at the end.
All right, thank you very much. With that being said, like I said, we are also looking at other things that we can do at the Reston station to help ensure everybody's not only their safety, but their feeling of safety. Like I said, we want to feel secure, and we realize that you need some increased visibility of some officers in that area. So I'm going to turn it over to Lieutenant Mark Midgley. He's the Assistant Commander for the Reston District Station, and he's going to tell you some initiatives that we have coming up to kind of help, and some things we've already done to help with this particular area.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us this evening. As the captain has already stated, we want to be proactive. This is not something, when we hear calls for service involving gunshots, that's something as a police agency we take serious. Now, obviously there are different dynamics as far as when we get those calls. There are times that we get those calls and they end up being fireworks and not actually a discharge round. But there's also times that we actually go and respond and we actually find true evidence that there was an unlawful discharge. There are also times that unfortunately we hope to avoid, but we also find victims. Again, all indicative that this was not just an unfounded sound, that this was in reality a crime in which a firearm was discharged. Now, for us, we're fortunate. In Fairfax County, we're the largest local law enforcement agency in the state of Virginia. What that allows is for your police department, there are a lot of resources that immediately we have where we can respond out and kind of have a robust response when we get those initial calls in for a true crime of this nature. We're fortunate. We have multiple K9 units. We have high staffing as far as our patrol squads and overlap with our evening and midnight shift. And also we, of course, have 2 helicopters that also assist us a lot in our perimeters and containment efforts. So where this is happening, and as we've kind of focused directly on Reston, it's important for us, again, to kind of take a proactive approach, not only at a level where we're speaking to our patrol supervisors to say, hey, let's make sure that we're all on the same page, that we're communicating, that we're having enhanced patrols in some of these areas in which these issues are coming up. But beyond that, beyond the patrol officer that is also tied to other calls for services, such as a larceny or a domestic dispute, we plan to have an effort that we're going to make to have more of a focus to set up a crime suppression team specifically to these patrol areas in which we're kind of getting these calls for service with the gunshots. We are well aware of the video that was on Nextdoor that was over the weekend, in which there was a drive-by shooting. This is something that is under active investigation by our criminal investigation section. It's not something we're taking lightly. So instead of this becoming ultimately the norm, what we want to do is we want to have officers that are in place that are part of a team, again, to help suppress these types of calls for service so that there's a quick response, there's high visibility in these areas. And when we look at the data that tells us where we need to kind of really focus our resources. Again, this is not going to take away from our normal patrol officers that know, hey, it's time to have enhanced patrol, but more specifically, we can ensure there's an immediate, a quick response, a consistent response with these officers assigned to this crime suppression team, and that evidence can be collected. We can do canvases where we can speak to witnesses that could help us, again, potentially tie some of these incidents together. Again, this will not be the norm in the Reston District Station. I think that's the most important point that I want to ensure that everyone on this meeting knows. This is something we're taking very serious, and it's something that we need to partner with you on the community as we bring our law enforcement resources together.
Thank you, Mark. And I want to turn it over back to Second Lieutenant Weeks. She's going to provide us the number for the tip line, if anyone has any information on the unsolved homicide for us.
Thank you. So you can either anonymously go to the Crime Solvers, which is www.fairfaxcrimesolvers.org, or you can call in 1-866-411-TIPS, or it's 1-866-411-8477. You can also text FCCS plus the message that you want to send to 847411. Again, you can text FCCS plus the message to 847411. Thank you, Captain.
Thank you. And I'd like to turn it over to Reston District Station's Crime Prevention Officer, Katie Defoe. She has some information that she'd like to share with us as well.
Thank you, Captain. So I am Katie Defoe. I am the Crime Prevention Officer for the Reston Station. And, you know, I think the Captain said it best in the very beginning when she said that whether or not there are more gunshots being heard, we are having more reports of gunshots. And I think that's probably the hardest part of crime prevention, is getting the accurate representation of what's going on. So we go to meetings, we hear from people all the time about there are things going on in my neighborhood. But when we go back to look to see those police reports and triangulate the data that we have been, that we have the ability to do, what we find is we don't have a very accurate representation in the police data. So my most important thing to impress on people is, if you see or hear something, then call and make that police report. We also know that in the realm of social media, a lot of things get discussed and kind of hashed out in chat rooms or on bulletin boards. If you know that someone has information that could be beneficial, but we're only talking about it on social media, please encourage individuals that have the firsthand information to make those police reports. We're able to make that gunshot map on calls for service, which means people are calling the police. But it would be great if we could have all of the information that's being discussed in those police reports. So social media, you know, is a great thing that we're all talking to each other. However, we don't have the ability to see what you're talking about. Nextdoor in particular, we have the ability to post on Nextdoor, but we don't have the ability to see what's being said on Nextdoor. So, you know, take a grain of salt of what you're hearing, but please encourage people that are talking about things to make those police reports so we can get that information. And I also, you know, the hardest part of my job is getting people to call the police because everyone wants to say someone else reported it. I don't want to be involved. We have many ways to contact the police. You can make a phone report. You can make an online report. You can have, and you can make that phone report that an officer doesn't come to your house. You can go to the police station to make a police report. There are many, many, many ways to make the police report. So please encourage others and yourselves, be the good witness, call in what you have seen or heard, and give the best account of what you've seen or heard to the officer that's taking the report so that we can get that absolute accurate information and get it in a timely manner. We know that not everything gets reported. We know that in social media, especially Nextdoor, we get threads that there's way more information that's coming to us. So please encourage others and practice great witness skills of giving that information to the police department so that we can have that. And also be confident. Know that if you're out doing something, the air of confidence gets you far more than, I mean, if you've looked at a high school bus stop or public transportation lately, all you see is the top of a head because everyone's in their phones. They're not paying attention to their surroundings. So I encourage you to look up, to look around, to see what's going on around you, because we can be that good witness. We can see something that will make sense, that makes sense later down the road because we were paying attention. That air of confidence is a great thing, and using it to our advantage of being in the place to see what was going on and having the ability to report it. So, those are kind of my three things of making sure that you are doing the best for you and your community, is making sure you're making those reports, that you are confidently being that good witness, and that you're paying attention to your surroundings. Because while we're engaged in our phones and all of that information, we kind of lose sight of looking around in our community and seeing what's going on, what we can do to help, and what we can do to engage ourselves back into that community instead of just typing on a computer, just sharing that information without that face-to-face.
And
Yes.
I would just add to Katie's point as well with our crime suppression team that will ultimately be moving forward. I mean, this is going to be more visibility now that you're going to be seeing within the Reston District Station. And I think what's imperative again is not only those initial responses where we hear obviously calls for service directly from the dispatcher, but it's also important when our officers are out doing these proactive patrols as part of this team, that again, if there's information that you all know within the community, to share with us so that again, we can ensure that as we operate, whether it's with our detectives, whether it's with our other patrol officers, that there's a true concerted effort to deal with any issues before they arise, again, proactively. So if you see officers, if you see increased cars, again, there's nothing wrong with also making that approach, because there are times that, again, they're just going to be out there visible just for a presence. And that's an opportunity to engage and speak with them as well as far as some of the issues directly in your community with some of these situations.
Captain, I think you're still muted.
I'm sorry. I was saying thank you, Mark, and thank you, Katie. And I just wanted to ask Jose to share that slide with all the phone numbers, and Katie kind of can just explain what that is that we're sharing. And if she could talk about a recent cleanup project we did in Hunters Woods, it was a community event. I think that would be great to explain kind of the thought process and why we did that.
Absolutely. So we have a Hunters Woods Neighborhood Coalition that we started in 2013, kind of to address some neighborhood issues. And while the conversations have changed, we didn't make this quick guide of who to contact when you see something. And it does kind of roll through a plethora of things, not only for calling 911 for medical or police issues, but also some basic needs issues. So we have 911, obviously, if someone is in immediate danger, you call 911. If you have the non-emergency number for things that obviously don't need 911, however, need to be addressed, whether medically or with police. And then we have some resources for community services. If they need, the weather is changing, that people are going to need shelter and need have basic needs that need to be met. And the outreach workers, the outreach worker and staff from the Embry-Rucker shelter, how to reach the shelter and staff there. And then we also have added some mental health services. And with everything going on, shutdowns and all of the changes in everyday life, we added this because it is something that is that we see. So anyone that it gives you the quick answers and the quick access to the phone numbers that get immediate mental health assistance from our mental health crisis, from our Merrifield Crisis Response Center and our Detox Center, and that is for that is for a safe place for adults to detox off of substance abuse issues. And then we also included some of the just in general resources, again, those quick phone calls and lookup services on the internet for the coordinated services, CSB, which is our community services board, Cornerstones, which is our local interfaith services for emergency food, shelter, and services in general, and then neighborhood and community services. So those are all quick resources and ways to access that information. This is we can push this out in a variety of different ways. It will go out through Supervisor Alcorn's office, through the Hunters Woods Neighborhood Coalition, as well as the Reston Station. So this will be around. It is updated. It is correct. And it is, as you see at the bottom, it is partnered by all of the main players in the Hunters Woods Neighborhood Coalition. So it is meant to be a quick guide. Obviously, you can look up any of the specifics of the services from the websites. We also talked about putting more information with the long explanations of what services are available on the Hunters Woods Neighborhood Coalition Facebook page. So I know that was discussed as well. And then we did, in the middle of October, about a month ago, we held a neighborhood cleanup event, and it kind of took place of our annual neighborhood or National Night Out event that is usually held on the Hunters Woods Plaza. Because of COVID, we kind of revamped things, but we, as the police department, the Reston Association, the community itself, there were a lot of concerns about the amount of trash around the Hunters Woods trails and the center, the Hunters Woods Plaza itself. So we organized a community cleanup so that we could get the community involved and invested in cleaning up the community. We picked up about 50 bags of trash, several large pieces of bicycles, a moped, a fish tank. We did a lot of cleaning. We had over 30 people attend. We had Girl Scouts, we had Boy Scouts, we had some high school Key Club members. We had some new residents to the area. We had some longtime residents of the area involved in the cleanup. It was a lot of fun, I guess you can call dragging trash out of the woods. However, it was a great community effort. And like I said, we had a great turnout, and 50 bags of trash is a good amount of trash. The Reston Association was kind enough to provide us the bags and the disposal of all of the items. So it was a true community effort and a community event.
Thank you, Katie. And with that, I'd like to turn it over to Officer Brandy Harita. She is our Community Engagement Officer assigned to the Reston District Station.
Good evening. As the captain said, I'm Officer Harita. I am your Community Liaison Officer. And tonight, in addressing this forum, I would like to reintroduce one of our important resources. and that's crimereports.com. It's a public website. Crimereports.com has recently been rebranded to, thank you, Mr. Delcid, cityprotect.com, www.cityprotect.com. You will see essentially the same platform and filters offered by the crimereports.com website. However, Motorola has just switched their platform. And what Mr. Delcid has up on the screen is a screenshot of some Reston incidents. It also exhibits the filters on the left-hand side, where you can filter by event type, you can filter by time, day of week. Right now, month is chosen, and you'll see the different kind of events exhibited on that easy-to-use map. So what is cityprotect.com? It's obviously an easy-to-use website. And it's just one of many of FCPD solutions that allows you to view timely police data. So this map is updated 3 times a day from our IT to push the most recent events coming out that we respond to as a police department. We write reports for. It's accurate. It promotes community awareness, stronger neighborhoods, and stronger community networks. It promotes crime prevention strategies. It allows communities and individuals to make informed decisions because they can at any time check this incident map. It's also efficient and it's effective. It's a trusted provider, Motorola Solutions, and as I mentioned, it manages itself through interacting with our police systems directly. So everything has been set up. I encourage you to visit cityprotect.com. Please let me know if you have any feedback. We're always open to feedback on our different platforms. This is a new platform. Let me know if you like it or if there's other features that you might want to see or if you have questions about anything. So I encourage you to visit that and just stay in touch with the police activity in your area. And that's not just for Reston, that's for the entirety of Fairfax County. The other resource I wanted to mention, however, Lieutenant Weeks did a thorough explanation of Fairfax County Crime Solvers Program. Just remember that this program is up and running. It works. If we might remember, one of the last times it was used in Reston was actually at the Soapstone 7-Eleven. There was a robbery with a weapon employed. Through an anonymous tip to Crime Solvers, detectives were able to close out that case with an arrest. So Crime Solvers works. It's another anonymous way to report if you have information. So please keep that in mind. Next, just make a note that forthcoming in early 2021, Fairfax County Police will host virtual town halls to discuss yet another new feature of FCPD's data sharing and transparency initiative. The virtual town halls will be hosted with your commanders, Captain Thea Piernat and Lieutenant Mark Mitchell. And again, dates and details will be forthcoming shortly. Lastly, I do want to take a moment to thank all of our community partners. That includes individuals, private businesses, the civic groups, for continued engagement with Reston Station. It's great to see that interaction between you and our officers, the communication, the information sharing. It helps us to help you. I look forward to working with everybody in the near future, continuing to work with our community partners. And just keep in mind, as Lieutenant Mitchell said, we have a variety of resources that's available to support you and your community, whether it's our own team of detectives. We have a crime scene detectives. We have the support of major crimes, canine, helicopter. And of course, you have the support of Officer Defoe and I. Officer Defoe is I believe, nationally certified crime prevention specialist, and she can help with a variety of resources, whether it's crime prevention through environmental design, home and business security surveys, a myriad of different resources available to you. And of course, me, you have my support. Any questions, any concerns, any outreach opportunities, please reach out to me directly. All of our information from the commanders to Katie and I is available on our Fairfax County Police Department's Reston District police station website page, our email addresses, and our contact numbers. Please keep that in mind if you ever need to reach out to us. Thank you.
Thank you, Randy. So that's really all we have for you guys as far as pre-scheduled kind of presentations. Obviously, we know we have some questions, and we're going to open that up for you guys. But I just want to make sure everyone is, to summarize, Fairfax County is changing. We've become more populated, obviously, over the last several decades, and we're seeing some changing crime trends. 2020 has definitely been changing crime trends with COVID. It has changed. We're having less burglaries, but we're seeing more larcenies from vehicles and some vehicle thefts, which we haven't seen in years. So we are adapting with those changes. We're open to suggestions from our community. Like I said, this is a team effort. We're doing any sort of outreach we can. We want to hear from you. We are not going to be able to solve all these cases without your cooperation. We need you to call in if you see something, say something, like the slogan goes. But like I said, there's ways to do it anonymously if you have concerns about sharing your information. But we want your help. We want your cooperation. We want you to feel safe. So we will do what we need to do. And that's all I have right now. I'll turn it back over to Supervisor Alcorn.
Thank you very much, Captain. I really appreciate everything you and your team are doing out there. Actually, let's see if there are any questions before we move on. We're gonna go to report from the Reston Association next. But before we move on, perhaps Jose, can you let folks know how, if they do have a question, how they might be able to ask that question this evening?
Yeah, sure. So if everyone can see my event window, basically, if you have a participants pane, you should see a little hand that's right next to this little megaphone. Anyone that's an attendee can raise their hand and to unmute them / mute them as well.
Okay, great. So you could raise your hand and Jose will flag you and unmute you. Or they could also put a question in the chat section, right? In the chat. Okay, so if anyone has any questions, please raise your hand or put it in the chat. In the meantime, if you have any questions for our police department, in the meantime, I do want to just do a little bragging, if I could. I would just point out that Fairfax County, we are the safest jurisdiction of our size in the country. And the Reston Police District is actually the safest police district in Fairfax County. So we've got some good things going in our area. And I do want to thank the police officers who spoke tonight and everybody who's out there doing law enforcement. I would also like to brag just a little bit that I think it was the same day that the Hunters Woods cleanup happened. I went out with the bicycle patrol, and that was a great experience. And I have to say, we didn't see very much, which is absolutely fine with me. But it was great exercise, and I did get a chance to see how the bicycle patrol operates. And I do encourage everybody. When you see any officer, feel free to go up and say hello and thank them. I know it means a lot to our law enforcement officials to hear from you that way. So, Jose, are there any questions at this point?
Yes, we had one question in the chat, and I believe Kelly had a question as well. Her hand raised. I can unmute her now.
Okay, great. Please do. Kelly, you have a question?
I do, and I apologize. I got on late having connection trouble, but so this may have been addressed, but the perception is that Hunters Woods is so much worse off than anywhere else in Reston, and that it is, this swirling cesspool of crime and awful things. And I don't want to live in a neighborhood that has that reputation. So I understand what Katie and the others were telling us about being part of the solution rather than thinking someone else has called it in. But how can we better communicate the realities rather than the fears?
So that's a very good question, and I know we did put up some graphs initially when we started off, and I think you said you signed on late, so you might have missed some of that. There is some reality, not just perception, which is what we kind of wanted to address, because we have been analyzing the data, like the calls for service and the reports, and we are just concerned as you are. There has been some increase in calls in that particular area in Hunters Woods. So that's why we are going to have a selective enforcement team that's going to be in there just to increase visibility, just have more of a rapid response, to get to know the community members, to hopefully build that rapport, and maybe we'll get a better exchange of information, because some of these cases, we aren't getting the cooperating victims and witnesses that we need to help close them out. So it is important for us to be able to do something, rebuild that trust with the community so that we can move forward. But we were talking about our different resources earlier that we're doing to make it a safer community. So we're working on that. Our neighborhood patrol unit, the bike team that Supervisor Alcorn just spoke of, they actually every single shift ride their bikes through the Hunter Woods area. They never miss that area because they know how important it is. They know how those trails go in and out of that area. And it's important to be in there, and they will stop and talk to you, and they'll play. My bike patrol supervisor actually has his own skateboard that he keeps in a cruiser that he can get out and roller skate or skateboard, and he'll throw a football. They're real good about that. So they're trying to build the trust. They're obviously trying to be visible to deter any sort of criminal element. That's what we're working on. But coming forward, Officer Harita mentioned it. Fairfax County is rolling out a new data dashboard. Officer Harita talked about a couple other data dashboards. We're going to have a virtual town hall in Reston on February 4th. It's already live, but we're going to explain it because we want to be completely transparent about our numbers and what we're doing, so that there is not an issue of kind of word on the street versus reality. We're being transparent with the data. We want you to know how many calls for service are actually happening in your particular area.
All right, thank you very much, Kelly, and Captain. Thank you for that response. We did get a question or two in the chat. Let me go to the first one. Can you speak to gang activity in Northern Virginia, especially in Reston, North versus South Reston? Thank you. So, Captain, you want to take that one too?
Sure. So there is gang activity. I don't want to say that there's not. You can see it on the news, obviously in the newspapers. There was just a recent, I think it was in the Washington Post, about a series that was worked with the federal agents in mostly Prince William, but a couple jurisdictions. So gang activity exists. There's lots of different gangs. It's not as simple as I think it used to be, when there was kind of 4 main gangs and everybody knew about, and that's what they made all the movies about. Every time I hear something about a gang, it's some new pop-up gang with a new name, and it's very interesting. Obviously, we're concerned about certain gangs. By definition, they are an organized criminal group, and they commit crimes to survive. So that includes, unfortunately, robbery. Sometimes they're involved in prostitution of young ladies. Sometimes they're involved in extortion of business owners. So that does exist. We have a very robust gang intelligence unit. We actually have officers assigned to a regional gang task force, because these crimes don't just stay within certain jurisdictions. They do cross jurisdictions. We cooperate with the town of Herndon, obviously, and exchange information. Every station has what we call a gang coordinator officer that's kind of responsible for monitoring all the police reports. He provides a monthly report of anybody that is suspected of being affiliated with a gang or any sort of crime we think may have been gang related. So we get kind of a monthly report so that we can track that. It is something that obviously we're concerned about. We're monitoring. We have no evidence that any of these particular incidents are necessarily gang related. I have reached out to the commander of our gang unit for their assistance on coming in and making sure that they are also helping us on visibility and identifying any potential gang activity, and obviously addressing it correctly through our judicial process.
Mark, do you want to add to that?
Yes, I would just add that, as we look at this issue, it's definitely going to be a two-tiered approach, right? Because there's the approach of, again, the selective enforcement team, where we're going to kind of have that saturated patrol, where we're going to have that true focus of responding in a timely manner and having officers specifically assigned for these types of calls for service. Again, when we hear calls of the nature that come out as far as in regards to gunshots, we can ensure that our response is robust, that the evidence is collected, and that our detectives can be tied in as well. But outside of that kind of quicker response and that increased visibility that you're going to now kind of be seeing in your neighborhood, I think it's important for us to also have that engagement piece. And that's where you will see Brandy, that's where you will see Katie kind of ensuring that those relationships are sustained and maintained over time, so that that trust is there, so that even when if that visibility slows, that long term, a year from now, 6 months from now, the residents who, again, know their community can still be comfortable reaching out to us, so that we can have the appropriate response to, again, ensure that this is not the norm within the Reston District Station.
Okay, thank you very much. That's very helpful. Let's go. We got a couple more questions. First of all, this next one is actually more, I think, a code compliance question that I think I have an answer to, which I sent a quick question via email yesterday, not sure if this is correct for him to ask, regarding a neighbor using his home as a boarding house. The owner does not live there, but he has 3 parties staying there. Is that legal or not allowed? And this is in the Great Falls Crossing Homeowners Association area. So yes, the standard, the Fairfax County Code allows up to 4 unrelated persons to live in the same dwelling. So actually, if it's just 3 parties staying there unrelated, that would be allowed. Obviously, if there are some issues relating, talking about anything that might be problem, noise, that kind of thing, then that's a separate thing. But in terms of just the straight number of people that are allowed, the limit is 4. And then there's another question, which is, when is that town hall? Brandy, I think you were talking about the town hall. Can you tell us again when that is? Or maybe it was...
I can answer that for you. It's actually going to be February 4th at 5 p.m. And we will definitely be advertising that. We'll share it with your office to push it out. Fantastic.
Thank you, Captain. Okay, great. And we got a little bit more information from the person about the house question and the unrelated parties. So we'll look into that separately. Jose, any more questions teed up to right now?
We have one person that has a hand up. I believe his name is Asim, and he will be unmuted now.
Thank you. I think Mr. Akron actually answered my question. I was just providing the address. But I didn't realize that there are actually 4 people staying there. They're all unrelated. There are 2 ladies staying in the basement, and 2 different people staying in the house in general, on the lower floor and upper floor. We have been checking with this with the Great Falls Crossing Association, HOA. They were checking with the legal to see if there is any kind of laws or something around it, because nobody else in our entire development has rented a home like that, and we are a little bit concerned. And we have seen some police activities there as well. That's why I put the address in there.
Okay, thank you very much. Yeah, feel free to follow up with my office on that, and we can make sure you get the information you need. Jose, any other questions at this point?
Yes, we got another one in the chat. Happy to pass that around.
Okay, actually, could you just go ahead and read that, Jose?
Yeah, happy to. So we got another question from an attendee saying, have there been any efforts to defund the Fairfax County Police? Any violent activity from Antifa and BLM?
Well, let me answer the first one. No, there have been no proposals to defund the police. There are a number of potential reforms to not only the police department, but also the broader emergency response system that are under consideration by the Board of Supervisors. And happy to talk to those in more detail, but those are ongoing, and we may see a pilot or two move forward, particularly relating to the county's response to mental health crises and mental health calls to 911. But no, not on, at least depending upon how you interpret defund the police. So I would ask, Captain, do you want to address the other parts of that question?
Sure. Fairfax County, just like every other jurisdiction, has had a number of protests. Some of them planned, some of them popped up, but none of them would be deemed violent. There was no looting, no rioting. We did what we were supposed to do as an agency, and we gave people the right to their freedom of speech and their right to assembly, and they said whatever they needed to say, and we gave them their distance to do so, and they were respectful, we were respectful. There were no issues in Fairfax County as far as any of these protests.
Thank you, Captain. And for full disclosure, I was actually at a few of those protests. So. All right. Any other? Oh, I see another question, Jose, that came in. Is that right?
That is correct.
Okay, I'll just read it. Is North Reston seeing the uptick in violent crime that South Reston is seeing? Captain, you want to?
So we definitely have different pockets throughout Reston that see different types of activity. So I showed you all the map. I know everybody was signed on initially. So there are different areas of Reston. So yes, the Hunter Woods area definitely has had some increases. We've seen some other increases along Parcher Avenue, and then there's some along North Shore Drive, which is I would consider North Reston. It's north of the toll road. That's kind of where we divide things up. So there's just different activity and different pockets throughout Reston is the best way to answer that. And like I said, I hate to say there's been an increase. There's been changing crime trends. So I think that I just want to clarify that point. I know we've been tracking the gunshot calls because we're concerned if that's legitimate gunfire, then there's potential that someone could potentially be seriously injured, obviously. So that has increased throughout the Reston area overall, the Reston district, but certainly, like I said, we're monitoring 530 and other parts of, which is Hunter Woods area, and other parts of Reston that seem to have had some slight upticks in that particular call for service.
All right. Thank you very much, Captain. We got another question. Has there been a rise in hate crimes in Reston?
No, I have not seen any since I've been the commander here in July. I think Reston is a very fortunate community. I think we're a very diverse community, but we're also a very inclusive community, and we have not seen any what I would consider legitimate hate crimes since I've been here. I don't know what happened before I was here, but I would say overall Fairfax County has been very low on those type of what we classify as a hate crime. We also have a difference between we call it a bias crime, but we also have what we call a bias incident, where maybe it was something was said that was rather derogatory and seemed to be biased in nature, but it didn't rise to the level of a crime. So we track those as bias incidents too. And I don't know the exact data on that, but I would say, like I said, there hasn't been a whole lot reported to me. I don't know that I've even had any reported to me, to be honest. So I think we've been very, very safe and rested as far as that type of incident.
All right. Thank you very much, Captain. I really appreciate everything you and the team are doing there. And I do want to move on. We do have a couple of other speakers want to be sure to get to. The next folks that we have on the agenda are from Reston Association, talking about lighting and path changes, I believe. Do we have Mike McNamara? Are you on?
Yes, sir. I'm here.
All right, Mike, take it away.
I'm Mike McNamara, the Director of Maintenance and Natural Resources for the Reston Association. I'm going to speak about two topics in this area. One is the development of the ball field area. We're redeveloping that into a safer and more productive park. And the second one will be the pathway lighting. I'll do the ball field area first. Our board has approved a concept plan, and our DRB has approved it as well to redevelop that ball field area. I believe there's a couple slides. that Joel can share. Yeah, there's one of them. Okay. Fairfax County has determined that our concept was approved it with the development plan and zoning approval. So RA's planning and design consultant, Kimley Horn, is developing a minor site plan for submission to the county and our DRB. They'll also be developing construction documents for bidding and potentially phasing of the improvements. The field survey by Kimley Horn will begin this Friday. And if all goes well with the plan, we hope to get this in front of the county by late winter. And with their approval, we can start phase one, probably late summer 2021. The first thing they'll do when they begin the phase one is the pathway work around the outside and the grading of the whole project. So if there's one more slide, slide 3 is shows that, you know, some of the different features are going to be involved in there. And it's going to be very nice. It's going to be a much safer, more developed area. And these are some of the plants and examples of some of the stonework and the concepts that are in our plan. So hopefully with the approval of the county, with our concept plan and stuff, we can begin phase one in summer of 2021. Okay, and on the pathway lighting, RA currently has the funds to implement pathway lighting from the Cold Sack Underpass up to and past the ball field and to the Christ the Servant Lutheran Church. We recently did a study to look into solar powered lights to maybe avoid, you know, the relationship in the digging with Dominion of the area, but we've determined that there's too much canopy and the solar lights just won't work in that particular area. So right now we're currently developing an RFP to hire a lighting consultant to assist with the research and development options for the lighting for the stretcher pathway. That we still need to go through our DRB and get approval once the lighting consultant comes up with a plan. If all goes well with that, we hope to get this in front of our DRB by early spring. And if the DRB passes that through, we can begin sometime the project in the third quarter of 2021. All the funding is in place. So all we've got to do is get the concept plan approved by our DRB, and then we can start that next summer. So that's the update on the lighting and the park. Anybody has any questions?
Thank you so much, Mike. Does anybody have any questions for Mike? Jose, do you see? No, let's see. I just see one. Where's where's the ball field or area or the park?
Pardon me, where's the ball field?
Yes.
It's right behind the Hundreds Woods Fellowship House. It was a small Little League field which was underutilized, and it's right next to I can't even remember the name of the cluster. They're probably right there. It's become sort of a hangout for people, so we've removed the benches and the backstop and things to make it, you know, less comfortable for them. And it's we're going to develop into a really nice little park. It's going to be a nice, attractive, safe place for people to be.
All right, fantastic. Thank you, Mike. Did anyone else have any other questions?
Yeah, we had another question about where the park is located, but we also received a question from an attendee saying, are there going to be actual playing fields there? That's the question.
The concept does not include a playing field. No, there'll be open space for picnicking. You know, you could set up a volleyball, badminton, things like that, but there will not be a baseball or a soccer playing field.
Okay. Jose, any other questions?
No, but Karen Anton from RA just referenced the cluster as the Hunter Woods Village condominiums, I believe.
Awesome. Thank you, Karen. Anything else for Mike? Any other questions at this point? Okay, Mike, thank you very much. Appreciate what you're doing on all that.
Thanks, guys.
Let's move on. We now have a report from the Community Advisory Committee. Gretchen, are you on?
Can you hear me okay on my phone?
I can hear you just great. So please go right ahead.
I'm having audio issues. So Jose did have some slides, but it's okay. I can read to them. My name is Gretchen Raytai. I have lived in Reston for 5 years. I got involved with the Reston Community Advisory Committee, otherwise known as CAC, due to concerns of neighborhood watch in my neighborhood. I am the chair of the Reston community, or the Reston CAC. I put a slide together that has contact information if people would like to participate at our meetings. It helps enhance communication between the residents and the Fairfax County Police Department. We have monthly meetings. Every meeting we have great topics, so people can really understand what all goes into the police department. It's not just police officers, you know, in the cars. You have the bike team, you have helicopter, we have support dogs. So it lists everything. So on here, I listed some contact information for the CAC. I listed our Facebook page is the Reston CAC that provides updates. The Twitter account for Fairfax County Police is also listed on there. And I listed Nextdoor because more communities are coming together now, I think, through Nextdoor, looking out for one another. Like Katie said, it's very important that people report these incidents that they see on Nextdoor. And people are starting to step up and say, did you report this? I know a lot of people were shamed into not reporting and they felt bad, but now I think the word's getting out how important it is. So I did put Nextdoor on there because you do get also updates from Fairfax County Police as well. That's very helpful. The other thing I was going to talk about is ways to build in our community as well, because I do live near Hunters Wood Shopping Center. And I spoke with a lot of our neighbors in the community on how we can, or thoughts that they would want to see to get them to the Hunters Wood Shopping Center, because people are not wanting to go that much anymore. I talked with Katie DeVoe about it, and we had discussed that, you know, if you bring people there, the more people that attend that area, the less you'll have in crime. And I agree with that. So we were trying to think of and this is again talking with the shopping center, and this is again talking with Reston, but throwing some ideas around if we had a area over there that we could do like a Shakespeare on the Green on Sunday afternoons, or how Herndon has their Friday Night Live. If there's an area we could have for music. I like that Mike spoke before me because about the ball field area. People are really wanting a dog park in Southern Reston. There's one up in Barron Cameron, but there's not really one around here. And that brings, you know, where the neighborhood can walk together. We have, since COVID, so many dogs in our neighborhood. It's like everybody went and got a dog. So they had ideas for the dog park. They've also mentioned about the lighting, if lighting would help, you know, and updating the tunnel that goes under Glade towards Hunters Woods. Maybe make that a project for school kids in the, you know, like at South Lakes, high school kids can design the artwork and have an artist help update it like they did the other tunnel that goes under Colts Neck. I think bringing up the appearance helps make more people want to be out, and you know, start getting more people to hang around the Hunters Wood Shopping Center, because I've actually shopped at that shopping center for over 20 years. I used to live around the corner before I moved to Reston. So you know, I have a lot of passion for this area. I think we have a great neighborhood. You know, even maybe workout stations on the trails, how they have one over by the assisted living they just built. If they could place some of those in the other areas of the trails for people, I think would help with bringing out, you know, bringing the community together. And so that was my little research on that. But I do think the more people that attend the Reston CAC, especially now that there's Zoom, the more they understand what's going on, the more that they're going to be supporting their community and open to talk when they feel like something's not right. And, you know, it'll all help in the long run.
I would just add to Gretchen's point. This is Mark Mitchell again.
Yes, Mark.
She said it. I couldn't be any more clear. At the end of the day, I know with us as a law enforcement agency, it's imperative that we have sustained relationships with members of the community that we serve, and that's exactly what happens with our monthly CAC meetings. Obviously, we are in a COVID environment, but in one of my prior positions, I was in charge of our Citizens Police Academy, our Teen Police Academy, our Future Women Leaders in Law Enforcement program as well. And these are all ways to engage your law enforcement officers and have contact with them in a manner that's not because we were dispatched to a call for service, a time to ask the questions and kind of really understand the true details of the resources available within our agency to serve you all.
Thank you very much, Mark. Wanted to see, are there any questions for Gretchen or anything about the CAC? Gretchen, I want to thank you for all the work you put into that, and everybody on the CAC, and all the great outreach and frankly feedback that you provide to our police department as well. Okay, we're getting close to, we have public comment coming up in just a minute, but I wanted to see if Lila Gordon, I see you on there. Would you like to say a couple of words as well? I meant to actually put you on there on the agenda, and unfortunately that was not there. So Lila, please, I know you are active in a number of these things, including the Hunters Woods Neighborhood Coalition, but I know you wear a number of hats as well.
Thanks, Walter. Yeah, the Hunters Woods Neighborhood Coalition works hand in hand with all of our great colleagues from Fairfax County's Police Department, Katie and Brandy, and of course their colleagues and the Bike Patrol and all those great people. The Hunters Woods Neighborhood Coalition was formed to do exactly the things that Gretchen mentioned, and I think one of the folks participating in this who asked about promoting how positive Hunters Woods is, not just the negative kinds of stories or impressions that people have. And I do think that some of the activities we've been hearing about are a function of the fact that COVID-19 has radically reduced the opportunity for the kinds of events and activities that were mentioned, where we can have gatherings and the National Night Out event and Halloween events and all the kinds of things that the community center puts on. You know, before we closed because of COVID, we regularly saw about 100,000 plus participants annually coming through the doors of RCC at Hunters Woods. And that's been true for more than 10 years. We are a very vital hub of activity for the neighborhood and for the community as a whole. There's a very extensive arts and events season that we host there. We have lots of private parties and experiences and rental activities there. The Hunters Woods Neighborhood Coalition meets regularly on a quarterly basis to talk about all the different things that Fellowship House, the church, the new Hunters Woods at Trails Edge, and the shopping center, importantly, our business colleagues in the shopping center. So I know that we're all living through a challenging period right now, but I want to stress that I've been coming and going at all hours of the day, 7 days a week from Hunters Woods for, I hate to admit it, but almost 40 years now. And I have never felt unsafe. I think we've had some very difficult incidents, certainly. I don't want to minimize the murder that took place recently or one in the recent past. But I think what has been true of any of the incidents that occur in that neighborhood, like any other neighborhood that Captain Pernot was talking about, those are personal in nature. They are not random acts of violence. And for the most part, we have a thriving and positive and welcoming neighborhood that we want to see more and more people feel safe and comfortable joining us in. And we welcome people. The center is open. We have, it's a little hard to be open and thriving during a pandemic, but we are still welcoming swimmers. We're still welcoming meetings that cluster associations and others are having. We're offering some in-person classes every Thursday night at 5 o'clock. I get to listen to line dancing in the community room, and it's really actually kind of cool to see people line dance 10 feet apart. So, and wearing masks. But you know, there is relief from COVID in the future, and when that future arrives, I fully expect Hunters Woods to be once again a thriving, positive, inclusive, and welcoming place. And I'm grateful for all of the work that the partners in the Hunters Woods Neighborhood Coalition do. We try to keep that sense of being a great place to live, work, and play alive and thriving at Hunters Woods. And I would welcome people who are interested. The Hunters Woods Neighborhood Coalition has a Facebook page. And of course, Reston Community Center has a website and a Facebook page. And just to check those resources frequently for great things that people can do and find out about Hunters Woods. That's good news. It's not all bad news.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Lila. Appreciate everything you're doing for the community, and appreciate your words tonight as well. Very well spoken. I do see, and we are going to move to public comment, but I see Karen Anton has her hand raised. And Jose, if you could go ahead and unmute Karen. And
I think you just did.
Welcome, Karen.
Hi, can you hear me?
I can hear you, yes.
Okay, good. Well, here, Lila, yeah, I agree. And I just wanted to comment on some of the things that Gretchen brought up, because these are things that RA has talked about as far as bringing more people to Hunters Woods. So I'm so glad that I saw it in her presentation. Shakespeare in the Park or Shakespeare on the Green is something that our CEO, Hank Lynch, and I have been really hoping that we can, see as a reality one of these days. And I love the Friday night concert idea. And the workout stations, we are talking seriously about having those. There's going to be in the repurposed ball field, there will be a pathway around the whole perimeter of the area. And we have talked about putting workout stations there. So hopefully that can happen too. So that's all I wanted to say. Thanks.
Fantastic. Thank you, Karen. Appreciate it. And thank you for all you do for the community as well. So we've come to the public comment portion of this town hall. It's 8:15, and we have everything planned until 8:30. So if anybody has any comments they'd like to make or any questions, perhaps that haven't been asked or they'd like to ask, please go ahead and raise your hand. And Jose can unmute you, or feel free to enter the question in the chat as well. Jose, do you see any hands up?
No, but I did get one from Diana Carter. She couldn't find her hand raising icon, but I'll unmute her now.
Okay. All right, Diane, please go ahead.
Yeah, we were looking for the hand raising icon and don't see it.
So we've been using the chat instead.
That's why we've been using chat.
All right. Well, you're good now. So go right ahead. You have a comment or a question?
No. Just asking for next time.
Ah, okay.
Asking where it is.
Yeah, Jose, do you want to go over that again?
Sorry, trying to find my unmute button. In your participants pane, there's usually this megaphone, and then right next to that is the little hand. You won't see it on mine because I'm the host of this WebEx, but that's where it would be. Yeah, so you just expand your participants pane and probably minimize your, and it'll be right over there. We do have some.
So it would be next to our name. Is that the idea? So if we find our name, then that's where we would see it? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
We do have someone else in the attendees that had a question probably. Jim Moran, and I should be muting him. I'm muting him now.
All right, Jim, the floor is yours. Go right ahead.
He is unmuted.
Jim, we can't hear you at this point. I don't know if your computer is maybe muted. Well, we'll come back to Jim. Do we have anyone else, Jose?
Let me check the chat. I don't see anything, but I think there was one question that was asked during the RA presentation. I probably had to could be passed to the Fairfax County Police Department. I think it was have there been any updates on the crime that happened a couple of weeks ago by Coltneck and Glade?
Coltneck and Glade. Captain, you want to address that, or Mark? I'm not sure. I believe it was touched on earlier, but
so this would have been, I guess, a few weeks ago. Just to be fully transparent, I just recently transferred into the Reston District Station as the assistant commander, so I don't want to be overzealous. And I want to ensure that this isn't something that was before my time there as well. I believe I've got the captain that's still on as well, and possibly Katie as well. I just don't want to speak to something I can't say definitively. So we'll definitely work on confirming that.
Are
getting an answer.
I'm sorry, are we talking about the homicide investigation?
My assumption is, given the location, that the question related to the homicide. Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so we did give a briefing earlier in this presentation. It's still an active investigation. No arrests have been made. There are leads they continue to follow up on. They are positive that this will result in a closure. It's just going to take them a little while to pursue all their investigative leads. But we were asking for the public's assistance if anyone has any information. That is going to be the best leads for us to follow up on. So we provided some phone numbers earlier and some contacts, even some that are anonymous, which I think are going to be released with this presentation. So yes, it's still active, but no, there's no arrest, I think, as far as updates.
Okay, thank you very much, Captain. Jose, do we have any other questions?
Yeah, Bob has his hand up, and I can unmute him now.
Oh, fantastic. All right, Bob.
Hey, can you hear me, Walter?
Yes, and it's Jim. So, Jim, you're on.
Yeah, I'm gonna have get Bob in trouble, give him a bad name because I'm gonna rant and rave a little bit, but don't blame it on Bob. Put my name in place of Bob's, but because I couldn't get my mic working. With this virtual or digital meeting situation, we talk about community, and I don't like that word. I like neighborhoods. We're losing our neighborhoods because we're turning them into communities, and I think communities it's a sterile word. We're not community people. We're neighbors, and we live in neighborhoods. People that live in communities, I think, it's just a bad term. And I don't even like the fact that they changed the name. The police, from what I understand, police department decided that they're going to change the CAC which was Citizens Advisory Committee, to Community Advisory Committee, and they did it without. It was never brought up at our Reston CAC meeting. All of a sudden, it was decided by whomever, and who decided to change it, and who voted on that. Who put their? Nobody was asked for their opinion. That's one comment. And the other thing is, I've been attending a lot of meetings in Reston to try to learn about the dynamics of Reston and the players, and learn more about the future of Reston. And when I attend these meetings, like I'm attending this one, all of the attendees, in other words, I can't see Bob, Bob can't see me, and I can't see any of the other attendees. Is that to protect one another from each other? Is that to hide each other, to give us privacy? If you come to a meeting and attend a meeting, if you came to a real meeting like we used to have before COVID, you all would come in the room and you'd even meet each other, say hello to each other, introduce each other to other people there. Here, you know, the other participants are saying, we don't know how to raise our hand. And that's not anybody's responsible fault. It's because we're using like WebEx, we're using Zoom, we're using GoToMe meeting, we're using all of these different ones, and they all work slightly differently, and we're going to eventually develop our skills using these tools. But as an attendee, I feel left out of my own community, my own neighborhood, because we're told when we can raise our hand, when we're going to have an open participation, and usually we participate at the very end, and then usually, we run out of time. So then we have to say, well, save your questions to the next meeting, or send them in by email. And that never happens, or rarely happens. So we need to participate. This is my opinion, that we need to participate throughout the meeting, not at the tail end of the meeting. And I know there has to be structure. I know you have to limit people, and I think you're going to have to limit me here shortly, because I don't want to hog the meeting. But I'm not one to speak out. I get very nervous. I am nervous right now. I'm not used to the digital aspect of this. So why do we conduct these meetings in this fashion, where we're not all part of? We're kind of us versus them, and we're the big shots, we're the know-it-alls, and you all are just peons. You just pay your taxes and shut your mouth and listen to what we have to say, and speak when we want you to. So thanks for listening to my diatribe, but and my sour grapes. But thanks for I just think that the CAC, in addition, the CAC needs some discussion on how that's being run also.
All right. Well, Jim, thank you very much. And I have to say, you have no reason to be nervous. You're very articulate, and you do a very good job expressing yourself. So, and I also want to say that I don't really like these virtual things either. This is, we're back at the Board of Supervisors to doing virtual meetings, and it's driving me nuts. I miss the opportunity to be in the same room and be able to talk to people face to face and all that. I completely agree. And I'm not sure where the name change on the CAC came from. I don't know where that was. Captain, do you know, Captain, off the top of your head? I don't know.
I can kind of give you a quick explanation for it. The Fairfax County Police Department has got away from using the term citizens, and we've switched to community members because of the concern that citizenship requires that someone has to be documented. So that's why you don't have to be documented to be part of the community. So that's kind of where the transition with the Fairfax County Police Department's been, that we have substituted community member for citizen when we talk about our members of society that live and work here. So I don't know about when the name change occurred with the CAC, but I imagine that was probably a spinoff from that.
I bet you're right. So thank you very much, Captain.
I'll also just add to that as
yes, Mark.
point that absolutely. I mean, the focus now in recent years, again, in my previous role, where I was the community engagement coordinator for the police department, actually working out of the chief's office at one point, and that absolutely was the focus and continues to be the focus. Community, to really kind of reinforce that verbiage so that there is no separation, that you realize that this is your police department and this is actually the community kind of influencing our day-to-day and our police responses, our police action, and how we operate as an agency. So again, I think the verbiage and purpose was to kind of create a more unified approach, for sure, between the police department and the community.
Thank you very much, Mark. Appreciate that. And we do have one more question that is in the chat, and then we're coming up on 8:30, so we'll need to wrap up. And I believe this may have been addressed earlier. The question is, was there a shooting on Soapstone this weekend? We heard the noise, but wasn't sure if, in fact, gunshots or fireworks. I don't know if anybody has anything on that detail. Yes, please.
I can speak to that. There actually was. This was one of the calls for service that was actually confirmed, where there were gunshots. There was evidence that was found. There was also video footage as well. There was a robust response initially from our patrol officers, and again, that evidence was able to be collected. An incident report was documented, and now we have our detectives from our criminal investigation section following up. So that is still an active case, but that in fact was something that occurred over the weekend. That is accurate.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you very much. We appreciate that. And I want to thank everybody who both were panelists and attendees today. I did see in the chat there was well, two other real quick things, and we'll wrap up. First of all, somebody else wrote in and agreed with Jim that it'd be nice to be able to see each other. Jose and I will put our heads together, and maybe he can tell me if that's possible on WebEx and how we might be able to do that the next time we do a town hall. So thank you very much for that question. And then finally, and I'm going to make sure all our time is useful here, question about the FCP data dashboard. What information has the department gained from the analysis? And this will be the last question, I promise. Are there any changes that are being considered that can be shared with the community? So can anyone from the police department say anything about the data dashboard?
Sure, I'm coming through. Okay.
Yes.
What I will say in reference to the data dashboard, again, we're fortunate as a law enforcement agency that we have a full crime analysis section. Each station has a crime analyst. So some of the information that Captain Piernett provided this evening was in conjunction with working with our crime analysts specifically assigned to the Reston District Station. So there's information that can be shared publicly at times in settings like this, but there's also information that is law enforcement sensitive at times, that's pertinent to an active investigation that maybe we cannot immediately share, but at least we try to be able to at least still discuss it, even if it's in a more generalized platform. So again, so that the county, so the members of the community ultimately are still informed of kind of what's specifically happening and occurring within their respective districts.
All right. All right. Very, very good. Thank you. I know we run over by 1 minute, but I want to thank everybody again for participating in this. Thank you, Captain, again, and your team for everything. For those of you that are not already subscribed to the Hunter Mill District newsletter, we'll be putting information in the chat room on how you can subscribe to the newsletter. We get it out just about every week, although sometimes with the holidays we miss it. And thank you very much for the nice comments in the chat. I agree that we really appreciate our police department. I couldn't agree more. So thank you all, and everybody stay safe out there and have a good evening.
Thank
Thanks.
you.
Thank you.